Okay. Hey, Holly.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am tired. I think I say
Are
that
you
every
tired?
time it's just you and I recording. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm tired.
I have kind of had this weird headache all day.
You should talk to our friend
That
Brandon about that.
I know it felt like it was gonna flirt with being a migraine, and I was like, no, I don't want to take Excedrin right now. It was too late in the afternoon because then I would be awake.
Hmm.
But now I'll just feel hungover tomorrow without any of the fun associated with a hangover. Well, we are here on a Thursday, which is not the norm for recording for us. But if you are new to the party, Holly and I are both certified in the Enneagram. We're certified through IEQ 9, so we are coaches. We both use the Enneagram as a development tool, and we are going through this podcast to hopefully get this out there to a bunch of other people so you can find the same awareness that we have. But you can find us on all of the podcast platforms where you digest and consume your podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, iHeart, subscribe, comment, DM. We want to hear from you, share, and we're excited to kick this one off today about how we actually use this tool.
Yeah.
It feels like we've talked a little bit about that throughout, but what else am I missing in our kickoff here before we jump in?
Well, I will just remind everyone we call this podcast and all of our accounts Enneagram Adventure. So if you're looking us up, that's how you can find us. And we have talked about this a little bit briefly. We did answer some listener questions a few episodes ago. And we did talk about, one of the questions was like, well, what do you do with this once you know? And so we did touch on that, right? Like, what do you do with this once you know? But I think recently that discussion has popped up again a little bit from the standpoint of maybe a little deeper than that, our sort of initial answer to that question. So we're going to go there. That's the point. We're going to go there. That's what we're going to talk about today. Before we go there, though, in addition to interacting with our socials, listening wherever you consume podcasts, I would just add that if you're interested in being a guest, please reach out. We've got a few people who have reached out. We're working on the technicalities of setting up a remote guest situation, working through scheduling, things like that. So, yes, we have had 2 episodes in a row with guests. This one is just Tannah and I again. But if you're interested in being a guest, hit us up. We'll work on the logistics with you. All right. So, here we go. How to
All
use
right.
this or how not to use this. I mean, that's an element of it as
Mhm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think as we kind of move through each of the numbers and how they might experience the guardrails that they may put around themselves after learning about their number, I would just say an overall lens of acceptance is important, not just for yourself, but for people who are a different number than you. The tool overall, I would say, is for awareness. It's not meant to put you somewhere and keep you somewhere. It's actually the opposite of that. It's meant to show you all of the other places that you could be venturing into that you're not today. So I don't want anybody to kind of wait to hear their number and not think of it through the lens of acceptance or even some validation, right? But it can also feel like a little bit of a push, like we're trying to push you out of the boundaries that lie within your number for you to actually get something from all of this. It's not just the okay, this is what I am, but it's the how can I be better?
Yeah. I'm going to riff off that for just a second, right? Like, this is about the idea behind this tool is not about attachment to your identity and that this validates your identity in a way that you like double down on things This is about trying to shine a light on both your strengths and weaknesses, but the goal is to become more whole. And part of the reason that this came up was, I've been having some discussions lately with folks who are learning the Enneagram, and there can be a tendency to, get your report back, learn your number, and sort of be like, oh, I make it up, 7. Therefore, I can be flaky and spontaneous and whatever, and I don't have to account for the feelings of others, and now this is my excuse for my behavior. So sorry, 7s. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying in general, the idea is not that you get to now have this thing that gives you license to continue in ways that are unhealthy.
That's right. That's right. And I don't know, it's not really a license to just like sit in it. If that's not what if you just want to know, that's one thing, right? But if you truly want to do something with it, it's a little bit of a license to explore what else you could do to be more well-rounded and be a bit more, I heard you use the word whole, like the most whole version that you could be. So part of the assessment, so as mentioned, Holly and I are both IEQ 9 certified, and if you do the assessment through there, when you get your information back, it will show us on the coaching side how integrated you are, is the word. And the scale is, I've never seen anybody be more than moderate, at least that I've seen assessments for. But what that means is, how balanced are you in all of those numbers, right? And how balanced are you across the entire assessment? And I can tell you that some of the people that I know that are really balanced in some of those areas surprise me the most, right? Like when I see what number they are, because of the behaviors that they exhibit, I would have never guessed, right? So, how integrated can you be into all of those numbers to be more whole, more balanced, kind of more in tune with all of the different 9 types? So, if
Well,
I think about, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and if you, well, I mean, just thinking about being balanced, and some of that is like learning and understanding all of these different behaviors. And when we're talking about balance, we're talking about behavior because your motivation most likely isn't going to change a whole lot, but you can evolve your behaviors. You can evolve how you show up. And so I think that's like also important is that while you're a little bit of all 9 types, that core motivation most likely isn't really going to shift a whole lot for you. You might
No.
become
Yeah,
softer in your motivation. It might become less driving for you, but the core of it's probably not going to change.
right, right. That's a great call. That's a great call. You think if there's any like motivation that I would give people to use the tool in a way that it does kind of break down some of the walls for you, it's like, what could be possible for you? Like, what could you be? What could you experience by leaning more into even just one of your wings, right? Like, I've heard you talk about like kind of your shift between your 2 wings. So, for those of you who might be new here, I am an Enneagram 2, so my wings are 1 and 3. Your wings do not change. You may lean heavier into one wing over the other. But if you are your set number, so Holly is a 5, therefore her wings are going to be 4 and 6. So those don't change. So how can you just dip a toe in to learning a little bit more, being really aware and trying something different behavior wise? Not trying something different motivation wise, but trying something different behavior wise to help, just to see, just a
Yeah.
little bit of a test.
Well, I think to that point, we talked about a couple episodes ago, right? When your type fails, when the strategy you've adopted stops working. And that's a little
Mhm.
bit in this using the Enneagram then and the knowledge of it and the wings, just as the example, because you touched on that. Those should feel closer to you or more accessible to you if you're to read about the behaviors associated with those numbers. It it should feel not overwhelming to stretch into those spaces in most cases. But are there things where you could be like, oh, today, I'll just use myself as an example. Today I need to maybe be a little bit more plugged in to the feelings around me or the emotions around me. So therefore I need to think about like, what is the four picking up on? What is the four doing? How can I shift from the really logical, analytical, fact-based way of being that's typical of fives into, and then acknowledge, okay, well, what does this feel like for that person? And even if I can't fully like embody that, how does even acknowledging and asking that question of myself change the situation that I'm in or give me a different perspective or cause me to stretch right into like a different way of being in the interactions that I have day to day?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest way for me to access this right now is like from a 2 perspective. My 3 wing is very heavy. 3 is my second highest number, so it feels most accessible to me. Something I've learned about myself going through this though is like so I am an acts like a 1 in my tri-type. If you haven't listened to our tri-type episode, I recommend listening and hearing a little bit more about tri-types, but my acts like a 1 comes out when I am stressed. So I try to control everything within my environment by like keeping things orderly or like I'll completely reorganize something and or I'll clean my house, like I'll rage clean, right? So something I've learned about myself is when I am doing that, that usually means I am feeling not in control of something. And trying something different for me is like, how can I practice sitting with myself and sitting with the feeling and identifying the feeling and moving through it and not trying to like displace it. Like I'm trying to organize the feeling and control the feeling that I'm having because I haven't, as a 2, identified that it is mine and what I need to do with it. Or if it's not mine, it might not be, right? Like if I had an experience with somebody and they were particularly stressed and I'm feeling like I don't know what to do about that, but I can go do this. So that's going to serve me somehow. When the real work would be, I absorbed that. It's not mine. I need to let that go. So I bring that up. I bring up what I've been working through a lot in the last 8-ish months, with my second highest number being 3 and my number being 2 is my desire to please authority and my deep seated attachment to being seen as helpful and as valued and as that person for authority. So I've started reading a book called the Courage to Be Disliked. But I just bring it up as like it's just dipping a toe in. You know what I mean? I think I was talking to you about it one day and you're like, what if you got a little case of the fuckets though? Like, fuck it. So what?
What's the
And
worst that can happen? Right? Like,
right.
nobody's going to die, right?
Yeah. 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 The other thing that I just learned is speaking of my 1 wing is this summer, for those of you who do not know, we are based in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin specifically. It has been very rainy and hot this summer. My husband mows our lawn. It's like his thing. I don't do it. And he would mow. He used to do this last summer and many summers before, but he would mow like the front yard. Like the front yard needs to be mowed. I'm like, Jesus Christ, if you're going to do it, just do the whole thing for the love of God. Because then it's like there's a weird haircut line, right?
Yeah.
Like the yard got shitty bangs, is what happened. And I was like super grateful, like just he mowed tonight. And I was like, oh my God, it's been so nice. Like, because it's been so rainy and hot, he's had to mow the front and the back every time.
Oh, you guys. And
A work in progress. She's a work in progress.
she's a work in progress. Because here's me, like, now, to be fair, I live in the middle of nowhere compared to where Tannah lives. But here's me with, like, how many weeks can we go before we have to mow the lawn? Like, how long, like, when does it actually look like a hayfield versus a lawn?
Yes.
That's, like, my whole thing. Like, it's, like, how long can you put it off? Because it's, some people really love mowing the lawn. There's, like, enjoyment for them. No, not for me. Also, our lawn is, our yard is acres big. So there's also that piece that this is like a commitment to go mow the lawn. Yeah.
Listen, you guys, I'm in suburbia and it is a neighborhood flex to be having a nice yard, right? And I got my husband a striping kit for his lawnmower. I shit you not. And it is the best neighborhood flex. You can tell. He like stands out there with his hands on his hips, like his fists. He's like, hell yeah. Look at that lawn.
This is like Erin and I, we're on a tangent. It's fine. We can be on a tangent tonight. Erin and I talk about this. If we lived in town, we would be those weird ass people who like never mow the lawn. It's never striped. In fact, I would be the one who's like, let's dig the whole fucking thing up, plant prairie flowers in there because I don't want to touch it. How do you turn the whole thing into garden and never have to mow? That would be my goal if I had a small yard.
Oh my God. My front yard looks like Augusta National right now. It's like carpet.
No, I mean, I know like this doesn't match the 5-ness. You can blame it on the 4-wing, but I'm like full hippie when it comes to yard maintenance. Full hippie.
That's hilarious. Okay. We love a tangent in case you're with us still. So just be prepared for that. So how does it show up for you from a 5 perspective?
In terms of not being attached to the number?
Yeah. Yeah. When does Holly feel like she's going to get dangerous and walk on the wild side of
any other option? Well, it's funny. I've been working with the Enneagram extensively, I would say, since 2020. Learned about it prior to 2020, but really did like a deep dive on learning it, understanding, thinking about how to use it in a team setting, blah, blah, blah. So it's been, 5 years of working with the Enneagram. And so when I think about it in the beginning of learning it, and I think this is part of the journey of understanding, is there's phases to everything. In the beginning, right, it's like, oh my gosh, this assessment sees me in a way that I didn't realize I needed to be seen. Being a 5 at 100% lends itself to like the deep dive of needing to fully know and understand the whole system, how it works, why is it accurate, the historical knowledge, all the podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And I think in the beginning, the being seen part of it lended to a little bit of an attachment to like this is like who I am, and therefore I need other people to accept me for who I am. What I'll tell you that I've learned as I've done other deep work with Brandon, with other coaches, with other, kind of tools over the years, is that it's not really about how other people see you. It's about how you see you. And there are things in the 5, I don't want to be seen that way. by myself. I don't want to see myself that way. I no longer want to show up in the quiet specialist title. I don't want that to be how I think of me or how other people think of me, frankly. I think there's more to that. And so I think that if I'm trying to stretch into other numbers, I'm trying to find recognition, really for me along the lines, because I don't, if I'll reference our tri-type episode where we talked about it, I'm all three withdrawing numbers. In my tri-type, those things are very like well earned, well polished ways for me to show up in the world. And so I don't want to double down on withdrawing. I don't want that, right? So the places where I go when I'm like, I don't want to be attached to this identity of the quiet specialist, or I don't want to double down in the fiveness, the places I try to go are into 7 and into 8, which are the two lines that are attached. And with what I do for my day job, I have a lot of opportunity to flex on 8. And we talked about this, when we talked with Brandon a couple of weeks ago, right? That's your gifts, right? It's easier. And we've talked about this too in other podcasts. It's easier for me to get there today, maybe than it has been in the past, but it's been because I have started to detach from the identity of that I have to be quiet or that what I have to say doesn't hold value. It's been like the growth of letting that part of the fiveness go that allows me to go into 8. I can't remember if we talked about this when we talked about the stress lines. I know we talked about, right, like that growth and stress aren't in opposition of each other. The growth comes from stress well managed. And 7 being the stress line, I think a lot about what does the healthy side of 7 look like for me? If I could embody that and manage stress in a more healthy way, what would that look like? I don't know if I'm completely answering your question, but it's through those things for me personally, right? Where I'm like, I'm going to detach from the withdrawing. I'm going to detach from the I have to be quiet, be seen and not heard, be smart, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to detach for that. What does it look like if I go full adventure of 7, or if I go full, like, brave with my voice of 8? I don't know. Is that making sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
it's similar to where I was going with it. It's recognizing in the moment what the pattern is
Yeah.
and trying to do something that is different or doesn't necessarily innately serve you, but does something else serve you that you haven't tried before. I think what you were saying totally makes sense. It's just it's the being able to recognize in the moment that the tool helped me with most right out of the gates. I've told this story now a couple of times on this podcast, but like one of the things that I noticed about myself didn't hit me until after I took the assessment and I found you and I was like, oh my God, ew, I want to be the teacher's pet. Ew. And it was that kind of, it's those moments that I see in real time now. And I think, like, for anyone who's really struggling with, like, just the identification of that, the more you get to know your number and the more that you get to know yourself, just not using the words of, like, it, to your earlier point, right? Of, oh, I'm a 7, kind of like this flippant. We keep using 7s. I don't want to pick on
I'm
7s.
so sorry. I'm sorry, 7s.
Oh, I'm an 8, right? I'm direct. I'm an 8. That's it. You don't like it? Get comfortable, right? That's not the energy that we need to have. It's this realization that we are all motivated differently and we all find safety in different things. And it does give you a license to be able to meet people where they're at too.
Yeah.
Where you get kind of that bridge that you maybe didn't know that you needed or know that you had.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing about using the tool and not using it as an excuse for your own behavior
Mm-hmm.
is, man, when I could sit and be like, the whole world doesn't think the way I think. What? Like, even just that realization, because I think a lot of times if you, as you're growing up, right, you sort of have this, I mean, we even say it in the like golden rule, right? Treat others as you would want to be treated. That inherently would have you assume that everyone wants to be treated the same. That's
Yeah.
not actually the case. There's so many different ways of being in the world, and whether or not you fully buy into the Enneagram, I mean, that's your prerogative. I love it as a tool and whatever. But whether or not you fully buy into the concept, there's still so many different ways of being in the world. And it's just one way to look at it and have realization of that.
Oh, for sure. You called me on it today. I was, why can't this just be? And you're like, okay, social. Okay, social subtype. Everybody thinks the same way you do.
Well, it's like,
Um,
and I think because everybody's all right, so trigger warning here, but everybody's a little bit of a narcissist, right? Everybody's a little bit like walking around the main character of their story.
mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it can be really hard to see why or how somebody could be seeing it differently. The example I'll give is a few weeks ago I taught an Enneagram class and there was an 8 in the class. And she was talking about like we were talking about interaction style specifically, and 8s fall into the assertive interaction style. And she's like, why wouldn't you just ask for what you want? Why wouldn't you? Now, fast forward like a week. I'm having a conversation with a withdrawing number who had been approached by not the same 8, but a different 8, who had just asked for what they want. Like they were just like, this is what I want. And her thought was, God, that's inappropriate. How could you just ask for that?
When the 8's like, say it with your chest.
Right. So like it's just like the realization of like
Yeah, it's hilarious.
there's like no intent. There was no intent. Right? They were just like, why wouldn't you ask? Of course you would ask. The answer's always no until you ask. Right?
Or you're me and you don't know what you want. So you can't ask if you don't know.
You also need to lean into your 8 a little bit.
Oh my God. Well, it's funny. So let's riff on that for just a second, because this book that I mentioned, oh, hi, Flora. If you're watching on YouTube, Holly has the cutest dog. That's basically named after me, in case you were wondering. So I'll die on that hill, by the way.
That's a story for another day. Why she's named what she's named.
So this book I'm reading, The Courage to be Disliked, that exact section is where I'm at right now. Exactly what you said, where like the world does not revolve around you. And the interesting thing is they're talking about shared tasks, or like what a shared task is. And they talk about how parents, right? The philosopher in this book talks about it in the most simplest form of like, you tell your kids to do their homework. Like, you need to do your homework. You need to sit down, you need to do it, you need to finish it, right? And they fight against you every step of the way. They hate it. They don't want to do it. You're forcing them into something they don't want to do. I'm guilty of this as a mom. I'm like, go clean your room. Go pick up your crap, right? But what the philosopher is saying is like, if they decide that they're going to do it, they're going to enjoy it and they're going to do it well. But the parents aren't telling them to do their homework solely because it's what's best for them. They're worried about the reflection on themselves if their child is going to school and not doing their homework, right? Like, it's a shared task then, that the parent is then forcing their kid to do something. Okay, you're going to play soccer I'm going to make you play soccer because I want to be the parent that has a kid that plays soccer.
Well, and as kids
And
get older, just as another example of that, as kids get older, it's even been I've witnessed it in families where it's like my kid got into here in Wisconsin, it's a big deal to get into UW-Madison. And it's like my
yes,
kid got into UW-Madison and is going to UW-Madison, even though in reality, the better choice for that kid was probably a different school.
right.
Yeah.
Or not school at all, or tech school, whatever. But it's so interesting because I also have friends who like have careers in like finance. And they're like, what am I doing every day when it is clearly something that was like drilled into them from a very young age, right? And what would, like, how evolved would we be right now if none of that had existed? If we just let people be who they are and meet them where they're at, how would we be?
Yeah.
So I don't know if all of this is fate or what, you guys. I believe in this stuff. I am getting things thrown at me everywhere that are like, meet people where they're at. Like, be loving, be accepting, be like, all these things are being thrown at me right now. So that's the message, is accept where people are at. Accept that we're all part of a greater thing and we all have a purpose. But you can't think everybody thinks you. Probably why we get so impatient with people most of the time, though, right? We believe that somebody doing something or saying something is something that we would never even think of doing or saying, and we're appalled.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But like there is a gift in all of it. If we think about, let's think about ones for a second and how they might use this tool. How much more free could you feel being plugged into your 7 line, knowing what it means to show up on the high side of a 7 and being able to identify when that's happening for you? Like, imagine how much lighter that feels
Right.
than the self-critic, than the
Yeah.
like the list, the task, the thing.
Yeah. If you could let go of the perfection and like find your way to the joy that exists for you on that line to 7, like how
Mhm.
different your life would be.
Even just for a minute, like just trying it.
When I think about just staying on ones for a second, when I think about the ones in my life, past or present, I find them at their best on that line to 7. It's when they're the most uninhibited, when they'll do the things like without shame because they want to do them or because they think it might bring joy to someone else, right? When they're joking or they're trying to get somebody else to lighten up or the whatever, and they let go of that serious perfectionist stuff. Yeah.
And a 3. I know a wide range of 3s, some healthy, some really unhealthy. And think of how the awareness shows you, like, step out of competition for a second.
Sorry.
Yes, you may go to the bathroom and go to bed. This is real life, folks. So competition aside, think about competition for a 3, whether it be with yourself or with any one of the other 8 numbers. And think about how that might show up on your really unhealthy side. And how can you look at things more from a team aspect? How can you think of things more of from a feeling aspect and kind of get tapped into that stuff a little bit deeper, because that feels really scary for a 3. Not only scary, but like inefficient, name the word that you want to use to describe it. But a healthy 3 is like fucking unstoppable. And they are so loved. Like, I know 3s that are so deeply loved by literally everyone. no
Yeah.
matter the number, no matter the circumstance, because they're healthy and they're self-aware.
And that's part of what we're trying to get at in this conversation, right? Is that the 3 who's just like, I'm a 3, therefore I'm competitive. Deal with it. Right? Like that's a very different energy than the 3 who's I can be kind of an asshole when I'm overly competitive. People don't always like me when I'm the one who has to win everything. How do we win as a team? How do we knock the sharp edges off a little bit? How do we come in a little softer and we all win together? When the 3 gets to that place, the like, we're like, I'm going to win with you. Come with me. We're going to win together. It's like ride or die. Everyone around them is like, I'm on board. Tell me what to do. Where do you need me to show up?
Oh, hell yeah. I'm like, we ride at dawn with a 3. That's like that. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
But you know what is so funny about that? So this healthy 3 that I know, I was talking with him about like a very cringeworthy moment for me where I let out a lot of emotion that I wasn't expecting to let out in a situation with authority, right? So I was telling him about this, right? And I'm like, I fucked up. And he's like, well, tell me more. And as I'm saying it, he like leans back and starts laughing, right? Like, and he gets me feeling much better is where I'm going with this, right? Is he's like, dude, you admitted a mistake at the end of it. Like, it's actually endearing that you're able to do that. Just fucking own it. It's fine. And immediately made me feel better. I was like, you're right. What do I care? Like, I'm a human being. I'm allowed to do this. I'm fine.
Right. Not a
I'm
robot.
fine.
Yeah.
No, but I bring it up because they could also be like the best, like, thinker and how do I want to say this? It's not visionary, but it's like looking at all of the pieces of a whole and thinking about in the grand scheme of things here, it's their eye for efficiency or something. It's like in the grand scheme of things here, like, come on now.
Yeah. That's not worth your time. That's not worth your time.
Come on now.
Yeah. But when you said visionary for a 3, and not that we're turning this into a 3 podcast, but when you said that about visionary for a 3, I do think, I don't know about all 3s, but there are some 3s that I know that can, so if they can see the whole of a situation, maybe it's the line to 9 for them,
Could be.
or maybe 6. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but some of them, their ability to see this big picture and then the steps of achievement on your way to the goal, right? Like, it's just so natural for them to just break it down in a way that, yeah, of course we're going to win at this. Of course we are. Why would you think we couldn't?
I love that. Well, and let's talk about 6 and how they can use this tool, because the loyal skeptic is a 6, right? The thing that I hear most about 6s is their like kind of doomsday prep, worst case scenario kind of thought process. And as a thinks like a 6 myself, that feels really scary to challenge that way of thinking and being. Because for me, that thinks like a 6 is tied to safety, usually, like in most literal terms, or comfort, right? So that can feel, Flora just yawned. She is wildly bored with this conversation right now. So for a 6, as mentioned, safety, like that feels uncomfortable to look at. How can I be thinking about this differently or not thinking about it and just being okay with leaving things to chance?
Well, and I had this realization after our last week podcast with Laura, who's a 6. And she made mention of something. And of course, when I edited the podcast back, I was like, fuck, we should have gone deeper on that. So Laura, when you listen to this one, I'm sorry that we didn't go deeper on this, but I've had a lot of thoughts since editing that podcast about this. And she made mention of this feeling she has that she's always doing something wrong. And I kind of was like, well, that's the human experience, right? But when I listened to it back, I thought like, oh, that's different in the 6 brain a little bit.
Say more about that.
Well, it's like the part of the being prepared for everything, having all the things is like it's protection for them, right? We've talked about that, right? Like everybody takes on, every number has the thing that protects them. And for 6s, it's that I'm prepared. I've thought through all the things that could go wrong and I am prepared. Or I have all the things and I'm prepared. It makes me valuable to others. But then she mentioned this as as she's moving through the world and things are happening, that she feels like she's doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And I thought about that after I edited a lot. Like, wait, like, what if the 6 could be, no, I'm right. I'm not doing the wrong thing. I haven't said the wrong thing. I haven't unintentionally hurt someone. My lack of preparation is not a personal failing, right?
Well, let's talk about that though for a second. Is that different with a phobic 6 versus counterphobic?
I mean, could be.
I'm curious because the way that I've seen some 6s be like so dead set on I am right and I am dug in and I do know best.
I mean, there could be, and I don't want to speak for Laura. She's not here to speak for herself, and since she was the guest last week, it's top of mind for me. And I know Laura personally, but I just thought a lot about like that statement and the weight of that, and how can you like detach like you're not doing anything wrong. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense in this exactly. And sure, she's definitely phobic 6 versus counterphobic. It could be different. But also, if we just were to apply the thought of like, this is an opportunity for growth, what if the growth is in the acceptance of yourself? I don't know.
Well, you're bringing the reason I'm pausing and like thinking so deeply about this is because I feel that every single day. Like I question if I'm doing the right thing or if I'm wrong. And sometimes that's due to like, it's a little displaced, right? In my two-ness of, am I doing enough for others? Or am I being selfish? Or in the acts like I'm all compliant. Let's just talk about that for a second, right? So it could be in relation to that, but that's something I think about every day, whether it be with my kids, whether it be with I am the type of person that looks at other people. I shit you not. This happened to me this morning. This happened to me exactly this morning. I saw a girl running and as I was driving to work today. And she was like, I identified it for myself. I looked at her and I'm like, she looks like she's like got all her shit together. You know, she just be out here running. She just be having herself a Thursday morning, you know? And I like romanticized like what her life might look like. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, shit, maybe she just lost her job. Maybe she like hates herself. Maybe she's going through divorce. Maybe she's having, I don't know. But that to me is the human experience of like, am I doing something wrong? I think innately we like without enough self-awareness look at other people and wonder, do they know something that I don't?
I'm just gonna for a second be like, there's a little 4-ness in you right there.
Stop it. You
right
stop it. That's the biggest compliment I've had in a long time.
Because there is the 4-ness is a belief of something missing. The rest of the world's got something I don't have. that's a little different than I'm doing everything wrong, though. I think the I'm doing everything wrong is a self-judgment. Laura's also an acts like a one. The self-judgment associated with I'm doing it all wrong. And it's not that I don't have that. I have an inner critic. I have the voice in my head that's, you fucked that up. Like, what were you thinking? Why didn't you know the answer to that? You should be ashamed of yourself for having not done the research you should have done. Right? Like, I have. Everybody has that. I leave conversations and second guess what I said and all of that, right? Like, I have that too. I've done a lot of work to like let go of some of that and be like, I did the best I could with what I knew in the moment.
Yeah.
That's an area of growth for everyone, but I think about it in the walking around and being constantly worried you're doing something wrong. There's like I just feel so much like empathy for that, and it makes me want to be like, how can you use something like this tool to see a way out of that, right? There's a path out of that, because every single person, of course, we fuck shit up and we do things wrong and we make mistakes and we learn and grow from them. So it's not that any person is perfect, but nobody's wrong all of the time either, right?
Right. I mean, shit, you could think that you're wrong when somebody else would tell you you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you could be busy telling yourself I could have done this better and this better and this better, and somebody else's, you're living my dream life.
all right, it's the judgment that we're passing on ourselves a little bit. It's a judgment.
Yeah.
And it feels a little like an indictment. You're putting that on yourself. What would happen if you didn't?
What would
What would happen if when you notice I'm thinking about, am I doing the wrong thing? We're going to stop right now. We're going to challenge that judgment, because that's what it is a judgment, and see what happens.
And
maybe I'm not.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily feel good.
No, God, no. None of this shit feels good until you're on the other side of it and you're like, I get it now.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a hard thing. Yeah, but on the other side of it can be such a hard thing to describe for people. Sometimes I'm like, try to, and I'm like, no, but your life could be so much better. Like,
so much better.
And as soon as you're there, you'll be like, oh, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Why didn't somebody teach me this when I was 20? Right?
Oh my God. I wish I knew this when I was 20. How cringe I was at that age. Wow.
I mean, I think everybody
When
has
is it
to
your
go through
prefrontal
it.
cortex fully develops? 25?
25. But even 25, like, I think about things like, sometimes I think about things from my like late 20s to mid 30s where I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, I was such a hot mess.
I want to talk 8s and 9s. We've poked at 7s. We gave 7s a few compliments as well. But 8s, since I live with one, it's easier for me to speak to that than 9. You live with a 9, so. But for the 8, it's the beauty to using this for them would be like, wow, I am not vulnerable. That's not very accessible to me. How can it get more accessible? And what's the worst thing that would happen? That's you show up vulnerable. Okay, great. What's the worst thing that could happen? And now I feel society in general is getting more and more comfortable with the strength and vulnerability, where it hasn't always been the case. But what would that look like for them? What would it look like for them to let go of the control? And what would it look like for them to use their directness and their charisma, their like presence in a room for something that they're not trying to get control over or trying to command or correct right versus wrong or whatever they're doing, right? I think about your friend that you talked about where he's like the biggest stan for like all of his friends. He's going to be the loudest cheerleader, like the loudest. It feels like that to me. Where it's like, how can you switch from trying to right what is wrong with the world or with a person or with a situation and make it as I'm going to be really loud about and positive about this part and see how it shifts.
Yeah.
And what's it like to maybe identify that anger is a feeling? And does you calling the anger out to center stage change what feeling it actually is?
Yeah.
I saw a thing today that's anger is really grief. I don't know
Mhm.
if Brandon posted that today.
Yeah, I've seen that though. Anger is a cover for sadness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what would it look if that melted a little bit?
Yeah. What if you just were, I'm sad about this?
Yeah, like I'm down about it. I'm bummed.
Yeah,
I'm not asking for a tear. I don't need a tear.
I might.
It would be nice.
Yeah. But it's that like the growth rate in that is like, how can you allow the feeling, not try to control it, not to cover it with anger. It's okay to be
And
sad.
it's okay to be sad. And if the education and all of the other numbers with this tool for an 8 is it is not your job to protect
Right.
all of those numbers. Like they're fine and they will figure it out in their own way. And some of them really don't want you to figure it out for them at all.
Yeah. Not interested.
And so it's for them, it's also like a reflection, right? Of if you're trying to control yourself so much, is that what you're doing? Let it out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In the 9 space, and we talked about this when we talked about 9s, right? The growth for them, the place for them to start is to have an opinion. Have your
Mhm.
own opinion. Where do you want to go to dinner? Have an opinion. What movie do you want to see? Have an opinion. What show do you want to watch? Have an opinion. It's okay. It's okay. If the person that you're with is like, meh, I don't want to watch that, it's not like your personal failing that you didn't know, right? Everybody's allowed to have an opinion.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I think that's part of it to start. And I was thinking about this when you were talking about 8 and 9 being wings of each other. How do both of those numbers find their way through the energy of that wing? How does
Mhm.
the 9 say what they want, right? How do
Mhm.
you find that 8 energy in your wing? And how does the 8 let it go with the flow, chill out in the energy of the 9? There's growth in that for both numbers. You don't have to control everything all the time,
Yeah.
8. And you don't have to go with the flow all the time, 9. It's
Mhm.
okay. I think living with a 9, some of it too is we have 2 withdrawing numbers in this house, so sometimes we don't say a whole lot. But like sometimes I'm like,
It's quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Quiet out there in the country, folks.
But sometimes I'm like, just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want. I don't want to make the decision. Like I want you to make the decision. And I'm not going to be particular. This isn't always true. He would hold me to this and he'd be like, well, not always. Like, okay, you're right. Not always. But generally, and especially as I've gotten older, like if I tell you I don't care, I truly don't care. I mean it 100%. I don't care. You can decide and it'll be fine. And if you make a
Yeah.
suggestion and I don't like said suggestion, I am going to say, right? And that's what I would hope for 9s too, is that they get to a point where it's like, oh, I don't actually want that. So then say you don't actually want that. That's fine. You're not going to offend anyone. You also are allowed 9. You're also allowed to do that. You don't have to like go along with it. You don't have to be an
Right.
LSU football fan if you're not an LSU football fan.
Yeah. My sister's a 9 and she when she finally reaches her breaking point, she's like, I don't like conflict for the sake of conflict. So can we get a fucking conclusion here? She like does hold hands with the 8, and I appreciate that. It's just like,
Yeah.
we need to find that a little sooner.
Mhm.
She's working on it.
Yeah.
Just gotta find it a little sooner than that.
It's just like yeah.
Yeah, just hold hands with it quick. I mean, touch pinkies.
Yeah. That's okay.
Just a minute. Just for a minute. See what happens. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. You guys, it does get quiet in your house then with drawing numbers. Should we flip houses? Because, like, I can assure you, it is not quiet up in here with
It could be a moment
the
of
two
growth.
who's like, are you mad at me? He's like, no.
Well, and
I'm
maybe
like, fine.
maybe that's like, I mean, that goes back to what we just talked about. We talked about 6s though, right? Like, nobody's mad at you 2s. Nobody's mad.
I know.
No.
Nobody's mad at you. Nobody's mad at you.
Yeah.
You need to stop asking if people are mad at you.
Yeah. I also think sometimes, I don't know, we're at time. We're like pretty much at time here. And this is like a topic for another podcast, but I sometimes too think about when we have those moments where we feel like we're doing something wrong, or are you mad at me, or we're questioning, causing conflict with somebody else, or any of those things. What if you just for a hot second looked in the mirror and been like, looked at yourself, what am I not liking about myself right now? What am I worried about with myself right now that I think someone else is mad at me? Right? There's like there's an element of mirror in that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Anyway, we should wrap on this.
Well, this was a good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a good one. You want to wrap us since I started us? Wow, that was a trip. I never start us.
I can do that. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this podcast. If you've made it to the end, just going to reiterate what Tannah said at the beginning. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you found value in this podcast, you enjoyed it, please share it. Super helpful to us if you share it with your friends. If you have questions for us, if you'd like us to go deeper on a topic, please, please, please reach out, comment, email, DM, all that good stuff. For all of our socials plus email will be in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. So please take advantage of that. If you do have anything you're interested in being a guest, shoot us a note. We're working that out for the folks that need to be virtual. We have a few people on tap coming up here, so we will figure out how to get that in and get that scheduled. So
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Thanks,
All
Holly.
right.
Till next
Yeah.
time.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.